How's it going? My name is Brent from Encore PPF, and today we are going to be installing a kit cut out by Core on the front bumper of this GMC Sierra. All right, well, let's do this. All right, so as far as this bumper goes, we've got 1, 2, and 3 parts, and then as well as this piece up here. And let's see, anything else? We did take off the fender flares, so we went ahead and extended the pattern into them a little bit, and then that way it eliminates that edge. There's a seam right here, so once this part comes around, there'll be a seam right in here somewhere. All right, let's get at it. All right, so I always start on this side of the bumper, but that's just because I've been doing that forever. So let's see, got a little pre-tacking here. I had a customer come in, so this started sticking a little bit. All right. So what we're gonna do here is, if you can see here, this pattern jogs up. So that means it's designed to go up and underneath this headlight a little bit. So, and then it's also gonna run right down into this recess here. So let's make sure not to go up the recess at all, and that way this top part will fit up against it fairly snug. All right, let's kind of get this. We're gonna look here, make sure that that's kind of lined up. We want to keep an eye out right here, and all that stuff will help us get this first tack point lined up real well. Okay. All right, and then we're just going to watch here as we come down. We've got, some very minor fingers, so that's not gonna take too much stretching at all. Squeegee it up to where my hand is. So, and because I'm trying to get these fingers taken care of, and there's not going to be much out here for fingers, as we can see, what I want to do is not hold out here to stretch. I want to hold just right here. And the reason I flipped the card over, or I keep calling it a card. The reason I flipped the squeegee over right there was so that I could go underneath my fingers and take the soapy water solution out right up to my fingers. All right, let's go ahead. Let's see here. Keep running this across. Oh, you know what? That might be a little too close. Back it up. Okay, so one thing that we want to do is kind of take a look over here, and let's go ahead and get this part stretched into place, and then we'll come back to the center here, because if we understretch or overstretch this part, then we're not going to line up well here. All right, that looks good. How are we looking right there? That's looking good. Okay. These fingers are small enough that we can just squeegee them out. If we needed to do a little stretching right there, like we did on the other side, then what we would do is tack this down, and then we could stretch a little bit here, because I'm sure that this stretched a little bit when we came up to pull it over to right here. And so we would need to do the stretching here, and then that extra material would just release the stretch in this area. But that's not necessary. Okay, so we're gonna come over to the center. Okay, so let's work our way over to the center here. Again, just keeping a good eye on that top edge. Okay. So like these fingers here, let's just do it as an example. So we'll go ahead and give just a little bit of stretch there. And then as you can see, that didn't cause any fingers here. It just eliminated some of the stretch on that center part. Okay, so we'll take everything again towards the middle. And then we'll just kind of wrap this underneath here. Seems like I've got a little bit of extra soap today. I know I did bump it up to, I think, 8 milliliters per gallon because it's a little warm today. And all I'm saying with that is that this bottom edge, you can see there's quite a bit of soap in it. So wrapping that underneath right now is probably not going to work until we get some Tack solution in there. Okay. So let's see. Let's go ahead and squeegee out. Let's see what this looks like here first. Okay, that looks good. What's this gonna do here? Okay, so right about there. Looks like this isn't really gonna wrap in too much, if at all. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and squeegee out to where we start having some fingers here. And then at that point, we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of stretch in that spot. So let's get a little tack in there. Uh-oh. Okay, same thing where there's no stretching in here, so I want to hold back kind of back there a little bit. And actually, if we stretch this at all, we're going to go over the edge. So we're going to work with that finger right there where it is. We're going to line this up and line up back in there, make sure we're not going over too far. Let's look down here, everything's looking good. And let's go ahead and squeegee this part out. We'll go ahead and take this up. Now let's go ahead and do this. Okay. All right, so when there's a little finger like this, what I'm gonna do is just kind of work it up like this. You see how I've already gone too far now before. It's hard to show you now, but basically what you saw there was this finger break into a bunch of little fingers, and that's the best way to push these out so that you don't have a bunch of tension. Like if you push just a finger out here, obviously you're gonna have a lot of tension right here. Instead of, if you put it all throughout here, then you don't really have to worry about that coming up over time. Okay. Put a little tack in there. Definitely got some extra soap in my stuff today. Okay, and then let's take a look at this. Let's go ahead and go over to here. So you can see we got about a 1/4 inch or so hanging over, and that'll be covered up by the fender flare. All right, again, this is like super repetitive. I'm just gonna keep moving, but I'm gonna hold right here and pull down. Okay, that looks good. Oop. All right. Alright, so that's just going to need a tiny bit of tack solution, and then we'll be able to just push that right down. Okay. Now, I'll tack solution in there, and we'll go ahead and... What's going on here? Oh, the family's chatting. So we'll go ahead and stick one of these down. I'll go with this side first, and then we'll bring that other one into it. Okay, now we're going to tuck right into that, making sure that we're hanging over. That's looking good. All right, that we can just let sit there. Got everything down here. All right, let's go take care of the other side, and then we'll come back and touch up the areas around there not fully stuck down. This guy down. All right, so we'll go ahead and come up and pull this stuff up to right at these, where these fingers start. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of slip in my, or a lot of soap in my slip today. All right, so let's put a little tack solution up there. There's not much stretching you can do here. Hanging over a little bit there. Really can't do any stretching. Okay, there we go. That way that's not hanging over. Just less to trim later. Okay, then let's go ahead and take these up and out. They're gonna need a little bit of tack solution in them. Okay, that's looking good. Get rid of this. And then let's go ahead and again, we're gonna come down to this part. Then we need to put a little bit of stretch downward. And make sure this lines up real good. This is bumping a little bit, so let's bring it back this way a little bit. All right, now let's work on this spot. How's that going?
Good.
Okay.
Everything on there. Got that piece in the headlights, door cups, everything.
What do we got going on here? All right, let's get a little tack solution in there. This is just kind of coming up real easy. Definitely too much soap in my slip. All right, then let's take this out. Then we'll go ahead and bring this seam together. All right. Get all these edges sprayed out. Alright, so I'm going to get a smaller squeegee, kind of fit in here a bit better. Alright, so just going to wrap these over here. They don't necessarily have to all go down and stay down, because this is all going to get sealed when we are pushed down with the glove and the heat gun. So we can actually let these dry a little bit while we do another part of the bumper. Then they should push right down at that point. Alright, go ahead and wrap these under. Now this card's a little bit harder, so it doesn't flex as well. So I like this one better for wrapping. Definitely helps to get that moisture out when you're pushing that stuff down, so the towel works really good for that. See, that stayed down much better than it was just staying down with the squeegeeing. Okay. A little slide chomp, and we'll just finish chomping this stuff under. There's actually a little lip down here. Actually, there's a little lip down here. It's about just under 1/4 inch. So this just wraps underneath and sticks to that. So I'm basically just pushing the little fingers down and then holding them real quick. And that'll help dry them out and stick them down. Perfect. Okay, now let's take a look at this stuff here. You know, when you're going around edges like this, you just want to make sure and keep a good even pressure on that very corner and get all that water out. It's real easy to leave moisture on these turns. All right, let's go ahead and get this bark too. All right, you can take the towel on the end of the squeegee and bump that edge. This helps dry it out and keeps it gets it to stick down. Let's go ahead and get this top part on. All right, let's see if we can get this lined up. All right, lay this out nice and flat on here. Okay. That's looking real good around here, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna need to do something to deal with this finger. I'm gonna put a little bit of stretch upward on it. And I'll worry about that one in a minute. So go ahead and work right up to here real quick. Get a little tack in there. If you guys have watched a couple of my videos, you'll know that normally I can just stretch this stuff into place and just hold itself there. That's because I keep minimal soap, or just enough to allow that. And today I added that bit of extra, so it's a little bit of a different install today. All right, this is just barely gonna go up and wrap over this edge just a tiny bit. And this corner I'm sure is supposed to be right there. So that's looking really good as far as lining up. And then this is going to tuck in. Look at that go down. Normally that wouldn't be an option for my slip solution to pull away like that so easily. All right there. Having to use a lot more Tack solution today. I'm gonna hold that one in place. Squeegee the rest of this out. And then let's go ahead and come from here down and see if we can get this to stick right now. All right, let's see. Let's see if we can dry out some of that. Let that sit. Let's go ahead and let that just sit there. Okay, so all this is looking good. All right, so before we start tucking all this in, let's go ahead and stretch this all the way across and get this part down on the other side. So I'm just going to keep bumping this right into this top piece into the bottom piece. And because my slip solution is a little bit more soapy today, I'm gonna go ahead and work just all the way across on this front edge and then let that tack just a little bit, and then we'll come back and swipe that up and across the top there. Now it's interesting on this pattern, that edge looks really straight, even though this one turns up. You know, if you remember when we were putting this in, that one came over and then goes up a little bit. This one doesn't have that same thing, so it's this little turn right here doesn't want to tuck into there, so I'm going to try and get that to do that. See if we can convince it to do so. Alright, I'm going to hold that in place with my finger. I'm going to put some good pressure on it, and that'll help that spot stay stuck down. That looks good right there. Let's tack down this bottom. All right, let's work our way up now. All right, that's looking good right there. So we've got a little bit of a finger here. Let's go ahead and try and split that up in a couple spots, and we'll squeegee that out. Same with, we've got one here. And that's from trying to get this to lay in there. All right, actually, let's go ahead and lift that back up. Get some tack in there, and then let's try and spread that out a little more. All right, so another thing I was keeping an eye on is this relief cut here to make sure that it barely goes over that corner. Okay, squeeze that up. Let's get a little more tack in there. It's important that when you're pushing these down that you get them down as quick as possible, because the more they keep popping up and the more you push them down and they pop up, you're going to end up with distortions in the adhesive. On this color car, you're not really going to be something you notice, but on a black car, that would be a pretty big deal. So I'm just going to let that dry out a little bit. Let's go ahead and finish this across the bottom here. Okay, and then just to kind of speed this up, I'm going to go ahead and put some tack in here. Oh my gosh. All the cameras are going to overheat. Alright, well, let's get you in here then so you can watch me do this. And then I'll go grab the other GoPro so we can overheat. Yeah, definitely take your time here and try and get this tucked up as well as you can. I mean, obviously don't need to get super crazy, but the better it is tucked up against there, the less chance it's going to hold. The better they're tucked up together, the less that they're going to hold wax and things like that. Oops, crap, hit that with my fingernail. Smooth. Just gonna kind of tuck that in first, and then we'll go ahead and start getting all this slip solution out of here. Oh, I gotta get some tack in there. All right, let's try this with some tack solution in there. So I'm gonna go over just a little bit, hold, so that none of those fingers continue to come over the top. Okay, let's go ahead and get these down now. So I go ahead and put my finger in front of that so that it just doesn't continue to come up. One more tack. Oh, I rolled it over on itself. See that? So something like that's much more common when you're going this direction with the squeegee, and that's because you're usually having to put more force on it than this, so it tends to bunch up the material a little bit. So, you know, use that in the right spots. Go ahead and go up this way this time. All right, there we go. Much better. So when you pull that up and push it back down, as long as you pulled it up and put some, you know, some kind of solution back underneath it, you shouldn't really have an issue with that leaving a mark in the adhesive. All right. Let's get everything, I'm gonna go ahead and get everything over the edge, and then we'll go ahead and tuck it back in there. You know, this is where these, I mean, this is my favorite card. I keep calling it a card. This is my favorite squeegee, and I really like the point that it comes to, and I like how narrow it is. You know, I used to use those fusions, but good luck getting the fusion to go in there and keep pressure on the material all at the same time. It's probably not gonna happen. I'm just gonna go ahead and put some Tack solution in here since I've got a bit extra soap today, so we can quit fighting it popping back up. Definitely keep the top, you can keep moisture on the top of the material so the squeegee slides across it real well. Definitely have some issues with the moisture coming back down and rolling over this edge and then pulling up in here. So just make sure and get that up and over the edge, and then you can hold and tack that so that it doesn't just continually do that. Now let's get all this over. Okay, now let's see what we can do right here. Got a little finger coming up right here, so let's get that over the edge and then hold. Okay, that looks good. Just gonna tuck that in. Double checking for any moisture left behind. This part's popping back up again. Okay, get that tucked in. Let's go ahead and keep working our way up. Okay, that's looking good. Let's see, I think what I'm gonna do up here is pretty much, I mean, I'll just try to get it just up over the edge, and then we're gonna let that dry a bit. Well, let's see if we can get it to go down now. Gonna need to dry that edge out. Yeah, it's still wanting to pop up, so we're gonna let that dry a little bit, and then that'll go right down, and then we'll heat seal it at in the end, make sure it doesn't come back up. Let's see what we can do here. All right, we're gonna let that dry and then that'll go right down. All right, so for me, it's the next morning. Let's go ahead and finish tucking and wrapping these edges. So everything's gonna be nice and dry. Because I've got this vehicle for 2 days, I was able to just let this sit overnight and all these edges dried out. I was also able to, you know, put a little shave on, clean up for you guys. You're welcome. Let's go ahead and take care of these now. And so basically how this works is that when I let a car sit overnight, the very first thing I'm gonna do in the morning is come in and I'm going to finish the parts that dried overnight before I start on the rest of the vehicle. And basically what that's going to help with is that this stuff's already dry and ready to finish up. So we're going to push it down and heat seal all the edges. That way we don't get any water underneath there or soapy, you know, slip solution from while we do the rest of the vehicle. Let's go ahead and get at it. Let's get started on this bottom part of the bumper. All right, so more than likely I'm going to fast forward through most of that other side in the editing, and then we're going to go ahead and do this side a little bit slower and do it together. Well, it might not be slower. That was pretty slow. You know, this is a truck I haven't done yet as far as this exact model, and you know, it's good to learn. Anyway, I pretty much learned how to install this on the other side, and then we're gonna go ahead and go over it on this side. I'd hate to show you how I installed that, and took forever, and I don't know how helpful that would be. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start here and come over this way. It does look like we're gonna need a little bit of stretching. That looks good. I gotta get back to my orange squeegee here. This conforms a lot better to these contours. Okay. That's good for now. If we can kind of figure out where all this needs to line up. So it looks like we could come this way a little bit more. So actually what I'm gonna do is take all this, put this down, and then we'll do some stretching right in here to get rid of this extra material. And it does look like we're gonna need a tiny bit of stretch this direction right here to make sure we're lining up with the edge. This one looks good. Okay, let's go ahead and do right there. Just make sure you keep an even pressure on this. Otherwise you're going to leave a lot of water behind. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap this bottom down. All right. Got a couple little things popping up here, but we'll get those later with some tack solution. All right, now that I've had a little bit of practice on the other side with this bumper, let's go ahead and do this side a little bit slower. As far as for the camera, without speeding it up is what I mean. Okay, so we can see here that we need to come this way a bit. All right, so we've got it kind of pulled over to here, which is laying everything down pretty good. The other thing that we could do here to get a little bit more stretch on those is to go ahead and tack this part down. And then we go ahead and give this just a little bit more stretch right in this area. All right. A little tack in there. Let's go ahead and squeegee this out over to here. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the pickup trucks always take way more time than I feel like they should. Or at least more time than I expect them to. I think it's because a lot of these corners are so rounded, like in here, it's just it's a little bit more funky install than doing your standard vehicle, which has a lot more sharp edges these days. I feel like I'm going over things over and over and over again during these installs. They're just quite a bit more work. What do you guys think about trucks? Other than the fenders on this, it feels like they're not really doing us much for favors. I think that the pattern's good because we're getting great coverage. Okay, so let's take a look. Got some fingers and we need some more stretch right here because that's a lot of finger left, and we do need to come over here probably about 1/2 inch at least. So let's take care of that. I'm going to put a little bit of tack in here, and then I'm not going to put my hands on the tack. I'm going to actually bring them over here. Bring this right to where it needs to be, around the corner. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and squeegee over to our hand. Okay. And then let's see what we can do right in here now. All right, so it looks like we need a little bit, it's minor stretch right here. So let's go ahead and lay this part in first, which will help pull on that a little bit. Okay, then there's a bit of a finger here still. So what we want to do is this little area right here where there's a relief cut. We want to get that down first. That way when we push this finger out, it doesn't transfer over to here and keep coming up at the corner here where this relief cut ends. Okay, let's go ahead and get this down. As you can see, I'm kind of squeegeeing downwards, and that'll kind of help push some of the finger down so that we're spreading it out again along this edge. Okay, some more tack in here. And then we'll get this down here, and then we'll work over here. Let's bring it around, get a little bit better angle on this. See, yep, right there. Just went over that with my finger a little bit to get that down instead of just using the squeegee. Also, when I was pushing it down, I gave a little bit of tension towards that corner, and that kind of just helps get a little bit of stretch in there so that material just wants to lay down real easy. All right, so a couple things. This actually looks like it's almost coming to the very edge, so that's going to be about as much as we can stretch that. Let's go ahead and tack around this edge down. Actually, we're hanging over just a tiny bit there. We're going to have to trim that. Now, here we have a little bit sticking up, and you can see there's a little finger there and a little finger there. So something that helps with that on more stubborn corners, maybe not this one, is to put a little tension on that. And then we'll go ahead and push all that down. Okay, a little tack under here. Squeegee that out. Now let's work up here. So we've already got this part down. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up a little bit up here. Get some tack underneath there. And then to help get rid of this excess here, I'm gonna put a little tension on it. Again, up and towards the corner there. Okay, great. Dry off some of the edges, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to the very top of the bumper above the grill. All right, so just a heads up, if you're in Encore and you're looking for this part, they consider this to be part of the grill and not part of the bumper. So that's where you'll find it. Okay, so I'm gonna start right here in the middle and then work our way out to the sides. Okay, and because we're going to put a little bit of stretch on this, I'm gonna go ahead and get this recess stuck down in with a little bit of tack. Actually, I'm just gonna use water. That way this doesn't lift while we're stretching. We'll just have this to deal with. And actually, I lied. I'm gonna go ahead and take care of all of this right now, so we don't have any problems with any of this filling up or lifting, because obviously we put stretch on it, it's gonna make it do this, and that's just gonna be more tension for us to work with later. So let's go ahead and see what we can do about getting this down now, and then we'll finish our stretch to the side. So as you can see, like I do in my other videos, I'll hold this stuff down in these areas where it doesn't, you know, in these most stressed areas with my, I'll hold it down with my finger. Get that to stick down. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see what we can do here. Okay, we don't want this to go over the edge, but we do need to get rid of some of this finger here. That looks good. So I've stretched out to here. Go and hold that in place, and we'll squeegee this out. We've got a good line here on the top, good line down this side. And then we'll come back and tuck all the rest of that in after we take care of this other side. All right, pull this up, get ready to pre-tacking. All right, let's go ahead and do our stretch to this corner again. See if we can get a little bit better angle on that. All right. Put a little water underneath there. We'll go ahead and stretch that to its edge. And then we just need to keep an eye on here. All right, that's looking great. Okay, we'll go ahead and rinse these edges out. You see? Yep, okay. Get most of this down right to this edge here. Then we'll wrap these under. All right, and so this one I'm going to start right here and push that down. Instead of bringing it this way, I'll start there and then go away from that part. Okay. Okay, that feels great. Let's do a little repeat over here. So what do you guys think about repeating these sides, like showing you both sides? Should we skip that and just show one side and then just move on to the next parts? Or is it helpful to see both sides? Seems a bit repetitive, but if it's helpful, we'll leave it that way. If it's not, then we'll go ahead and just do one side and then skip to the next part. I mean, obviously we'll also get like the stretching in the middle and stuff. That's still important, but once we get to these areas, like right here, we could skip that part and move on to the next piece. Alright, so I probably should have done the hood before I did this part now that I'm thinking about it, because the paint protection is going to land on here from the hood because we will be bulking it. So the issue with that is that some of these edges, if they're not completely sealed down and the material lays over it and then sticks to it, when I lift it up, it may actually pull some of these edges up that aren't totally down. So I'm going to go ahead and heat seal most of this now, and then this video will be completed and there will be another video of the hood. So something to note on this, I don't necessarily or usually like to heat seal this directly after I set it on. I like to let it sit and cure for a while. And I feel like that when I do it like this, I can distort the adhesive a bit more while it's still drying while I'm pushing on it. And so I find that leaving it sit there to cure and then taking care of your edges is a better way to go about this. But because I'm moving right onto the hood, this needs to be down right now. And if I was to do this truck again another time, I would go ahead and do this stuff in a little bit different order, which is just doing the hood before this piece goes on. All right, so now that I've got the top edge on this one heat sealed, I'm going to go ahead and leave the bottom unsealed as well. I still have to get to this bottom part of the fender. But that's all we've got for this one. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the hood. You should see another video coming out shortly on that. And thanks for taking a look. If you found anything useful or helpful, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. So go ahead and start with wrapping everything and tucking it, and then we'll heat seal. So if you remember, we had some issues here with this totally staying stuck down. I'm gonna go ahead and push this down now. Now on a black vehicle or something, I would not recommend leaving this up and dry like this overnight, or I would not recommend this staying lifted up and allowing it to dry overnight, because you're gonna potentially end up with a little line right there where it was stuck and not stuck. Let's go ahead and work this down though. Okay. So to wrap all these and tuck these edges in, I'm going to use a couple different tools. This one's great for tucking stuff in, you know, where it's hard to kind of get your finger in there, as well as with this edge on it. It does help it glide across the material better. All right, and then when I can't fit this part in, I'll go ahead and flip something like one of these cards over and run that in there. So at the end of the day yesterday, which, I mean, for me was the end of the day, but for the video it was just probably like 2 minutes ago. We went ahead and blew all these edges out with a air compressor. What is it that you guys do on your edges to dry them out faster so that you can do, you know, finish a vehicle in one day and get it back to the customer? How do you guys handle that situation? Sometimes I'll do the, let's see, so sometimes I'll do the air compressor. We've also got just like a regular blower that's battery powered I'll use sometimes. I'll also just move on to other parts of the vehicle and then come back to the areas like the bumper. That'll give them some time to dry out. Or sometimes I'll even use a heat gun and go across them with the heat gun and like a towel or something like that. All right, there's a little something way back in there. Get that one. Okay. And also, do you guys have any different tools you use for tucking stuff in further where your fingers can't reach that might be something I haven't tried? I always like finding new tools. Okay, so that's all touched up. Let's go ahead and heat seal this, and then we'll move on to installing the rest of the bumper.